Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Bipartisan Policy Center. It's a pleasure to be co-hosting this discussion with George Mason University. Some wise person once said that the further back you look, the further ahead you can see. As Paul indicated, part of this forum was to be an oral history looking back on the budget with the folks that have lived the history of it. But I have a feeling we'll be looking ahead a lot more here than looking back as we go forward.
But there is one problem and process that really bothers me. I think that one of the reasons that these issues have become so politicized is because Congress is never at work anymore. They come in here, when I was there, when I started, we started the session Monday afternoon, and it went until Friday morning. Today, they come in at Tuesday at 6:30, they vote on a few meaningless issues. They're in town for a full day on Wednesday. Thursday by noon, they're gone, heading for the plains. And as a result, they never have the time to learn the substance of an issue. And so if they don't have time to learn the substance of an issue, what do? They fall back on the politics of the issue, and it becomes more and more polarized.
If you look at the chart of spending and revenue over the last 60 years, 3 years ago, we were at a 60-year low on revenue and a 60-year high on spending. 60-year low on revenue, 60-year high on spending. No wonder we had record deficits and additions to the debt. So in my judgment, when some of our friends say it's just a spending problem, they've got it half right. Yeah, we had a spending problem that was necessitated to avoid a depression, a revenue problem exacerbated by tax cuts that we could not afford, that went too far, that took our revenue base to a 60-year low. So, my judgment, we got to work both halves of this equation.
The real difficult issue will be policy issues. If in fact this is going to go into effect, do you furlough employees and protect the core modernization program? Do you hold back on some of the modernization programs and not furlough employees? Those are very tough policy decisions that have to be made, and I would certainly urge the FAA, and I'm sure they are doing it, is looking at those questions very, very seriously. I think the real concern is not so much 2014, because they may get by. It won't be easy, but they may get by. But it is, as others have suggested, the longer term implications.
Your statement that nobody wanted it to go into effect, it's absolutely right. Back then, too. Sequestration, remember, wasn't a policy goal. It was an enforcement mechanism trying to achieve other results. That was as true back then as it is now. And in fact, it's good to keep in mind that we have sequestration in place right now for fiscal year 2013, but in 2014, we have caps.
I think if Congress fully understood what happened inside of agencies when they put them on a continuing resolution, they would feel much greater pressure to act expeditiously in a timely way. And in some cases it doesn't have so much. It really depends on the program. But anytime you have an agency that's involved with procurement and they don't know how much they're going to get, they cannot go through the cycle that you should go through to do a prudent procurement that gets the taxpayer the value that he deserves out of it.
Most everything that the government does has an effect on our society. Tax policy is social policy. It is. Decisions that we make about discretionary funding reflects the values of the federal government, and hopefully, but less so these days than it used to be, the values of our society. So if we want a tax policy or we want a domestic discretionary policy that says that we're going to, advantage X to the detriment of Y, I think that that's a debate that gets lost these days in the discussion of accounting and numbers and the deficit. Unfortunately, when the deficit became the center of national political debate back in the 80s when Graham-Rummon, we sort of lost lost that sense, I think, that what we're doing here, the budget is basically just a blueprint of policy. But now the blueprint has become the focus as opposed to the policy. And I think that's something that we might want to take away from this discussion as well.
But the truth of the matter is the government and an emergency always comes together and work. I'm absolutely certain America will come together. We're not going to allow this country to go down just because we can't get along. We're going to fight like hell, but at the 11th hour, somehow we always come together, and I'm absolutely certain the same thing will happen again.
I think we've had a very interesting morning dealing with these issues that sometimes don't get aired. Sometimes I think when the American public thinks about government, they think of a big vending machine. You put your money in and you get your program out. I think that the picture we've seen here is of managers furiously trying to keep it together under some incredible constraints and difficulties and challenges, whether it's furloughs or cuts and programs or uncertainty and the like. And I think what we've also heard is the notion that, managers can do a lot and members of Congress can do a lot to keep us from going over the cliff. But as former Governor Thompson might say, who was once president of Amtrak, this is no way to run a railroad. And it has long-term impact on lots of issues that we care about as a society. And I think that's what this panel and the previous one have really revealed.